So we got a lot to talk about today. What happens when you have too many ideas? And oh boy, another scam on the internet. It's I Should Be Writing, Season 17, Episode 58.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft, but I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
And hi there. Welcome to I Should Be Writing, the podcast for wannabe fiction writers. I'm your host, Mer Lafferty. And I've been spending my week taking more time off than I wanted to, but it's like the brain still wouldn't turn on very much. And I don't like that, but it's what happened. And so I've been just trying to keep notes on things that I need to work on and then finish up some errands and boring adult stuff. I've been brainstorming for my next project a little bit in the sort of back brain kind of thing. I discovered that if you go to sleep listening to Agatha Christie, you're not waking up a better mystery writer. The more you know. But yes, this show is live on Twitch, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Anybody can come hang out and chat, and then I put it on the podcast feed at merverse.com a couple of days later, edited and prettied up. So it's less chatty, but more concise. What else do we got? I forgot to mention we have a sponsor. Scribbleophile is sponsoring us again. We'll talk more about them later on. And I guess we're at the good news part, because I really don't have... Oh, I do have something. I do have a good news thing. Granted, I haven't looked at it yet, but I did hear back from my editor, and the positive things... He has said much more positive things about this one. He still wants edits, which is not surprising, because I sent in a completely different rewrite. But when I read the email, I was fine with it. And it's just a matter of sitting down with my laptop and opening the file and looking at it. So that's my good news, that I think my edits will not be awful. And I might be done with this project at some point before 2022. That'd be great. So yeah, that's my good news. If you have any good news, either live in chat or you're listening to this later and you want to tell me something great, tell me now or email me. Hit that yay button. Yes, I will hit the yay button, because I think and granted, I could be completely wrong. If I read the actual document, it could be a lot worse. But the email was much more positive than it has been. So I'm calling that a win. And it's good to see everybody. Does anybody else have some news to share? Collected a total of 8 rejections for my novel's query, and also got a new apartment. That's great, Indigo Quill. Fantastic. I added a pocket to my skirt yesterday. K. Kimmy, that is awesome. For Indigo Quill and K. Kimmy, yay button is pressed. We just went shopping for things and some clothes, and got to complain loudly about fake pockets and how terrible it is. Just totally ridiculous. Awful. First misread pocket as podcast and wondered whether Skirt was a new podcatcher app. You never know. I think Torch is contacting me about being on their network. I think it's Torch. They're coming up with the strangest names now. It's essentially if you take a noun and remove the vowels and put an extra R on the end, it's a internet company. So yeah, I will tell you a little bit about my sponsor. It is Scribbleophile, and Scribbleophile is... I was so delighted when they contacted me, and because people often ask that, how do they find someone to share their work with? And I never know, because I am kind of beyond that, because I am not looking for beta readers or groups anymore, and I feel a little out of touch. And I think when I suggest something that I used 18 years ago, that may not be the strongest help. So Scribbleophile came along and wanted to sponsor the podcast, and they offer writing communities where you can find beta readers, someone to help you out with your edits or workshopping or whatever. And they're building a really cool community over there. They're endorsed by Writer's Digest, NaNoWriMo. They're on several 100 best websites for writers out there. So I recommend y'all check it out. I'll get the rant over with, because if I get it over with, we can move on. But if I don't get it over with first thing, I'm going to be thinking about it as I'm talking about the other thing, and that's not cool. So this morning, actually it wasn't this morning, it's this morning I started going through the email I have not been through since working on this novella, so it's a little while ago. I don't even know, and it doesn't matter. So we got an email. I get a lot of email from publicists and authors wanting to be on the show, which is kind of funny because I don't have authors on the show very often. And somewhere I'm on a list of, this is a podcast, or this is a podcast about writing, so put your client on it. And a lot of times the people don't pay any attention to whether I'm having interviews. If I do interviews, the kind of interviews I do, they just send me their pitch. And I looked at, so a woman sent me an email, and it said, here's my client, she's done mystery and fantasy. And I said, okay, I'll look at her press kit. And it was bad. It was train wreck bad. It was riddled with typos everywhere. Her bio read like a Christmas letter. Just if we're doing X, Y, and Z and with my family, and you'll never know what we get up to next, and a lot of exclamation points, and it's just getting worse and worse. And then her the books frankly didn't look good. The covers looked very amateurish. The synopses were pretty much a cliche watering down of almost every fantasy book. And it was honestly funny, some of the awful things on this. But I kept thinking, like, this is your press kit. So either the woman who sent it to me, the publicist, didn't read it and therefore should be fired, or she wrote it and really therefore should be fired, because it was awful. There were 4 books listed with considerable, lots and lots and lots of words on them. But one of them had just empty spaces for when published, ISBN, just like someone forgot to add that when it was in all the others. So it was just like amateur, awful, first draft kind of awfulness. And then I wanted to see about this publishing company. And so I started looking at the publishing company, and then the red flags started to go up, because they're also calling themselves a hybrid publisher. I know some people watching now don't watch me and Matt do Ditch Diggers, but we covered this last week, this hybrid publishing scam of, we're not a vanity press, we're a hybrid publisher. So unlike vanity presses, you give us a boatload of money and we will give you a professional book, which is what Publish America promised. And then I started feeling sad for the woman, because the book packages were $5,900. And I swear, these clearly were not professionally edited, and the covers clearly were not professionally designed. And this makes me so angry because there's so much out there on the internet to advise you not to do this. Do not fall for this. Do not give them your money. I do assume a lot of you listen to Ditch Diggers as well, so I won't go into it too much, but, Matt and I were saying last week that money needs to go towards the author. Since self-publishing started, people have gotten confused because, well, if you self-publish, you need to spend money. And I want to say, self-publishing is a fantastic option. It is easier than ever before, and that's wonderful. Which is why I wanted to talk to, I believe, Underpope. I know Cheryl has done some self-pub, but I wasn't sure about Underpope. But I wanted to ask you guys and bring you in because $5,900, that's a lot of money. And I'm trying to think of, if I had $5,900 to put into a self-publishing project, what do you think it would be like? Editing, marketing, art, layout, all of that stuff. So I'm curious how you guys would approach that if you had the money to just use yourself, not to give to a scammer. Because, again, it's like the fact that the stuff was terrible was the biggest insult. The covers are awful. They have in their about us part of the site, they have they talk about their excellent editing that they do to your book, and in the very next sentence improperly use the word your. The next sentence. It's awful. Oh, hey, Sam. For $5,900, you can get a good ghostwriter just to write the whole thing for you. That's probably true. Yeah, I'm not sure, Meerkat. That's why I wanted to bring in people who had approached, who had done self-publishing things to be a little bit more of an expert than I am. But also just to say, I fully respect people who go into this work. But the thing is, you have to consider when the money flows, does it... I gotta come up with a better saying for this. Essentially, when you pay a cover artist to give you a cover, they quote you a fee, and then you pay it, and then you're done. When you sell the book, you want, ideally, readers are going to pick it up, and they're going to send money to the publisher, who then sends money to you. And that's supposed to hopefully be ongoing until the book goes out of print. And that is where the publisher gets their money. They do not get it. If they get it from you, you are their customer. If you look at someone and say, is this a publishing company? Or publishing companies sell books to people. They buy the books, give them money. They give money to the author. But they're making it sound like they give a service, and that's where their money comes from, not selling books. Also, I'm fairly sure that a number of the reviews included in the press kit were sock puppets because the same voice was used throughout. Let's see what chat is saying. Do you want figures? I'm okay talking dollar amounts. Whatever you are comfortable talking about, Shale. I just didn't want to, if you want to talk ballparks, you want to talk regular, precise. I just wanted to say that I don't want to look like I'm crapping on self-published people, because I'm not. But this kind of thing, and they're not even giving you a good product, is terrible. And talk about the essential oils. Oh God. I don't want to talk too much crap about the author, but there was essential oils and essential oils are mentioned more than once in her books. It's strange. Like, what do you need to get out of your doldrum life? Well, essential oils and a murder to solve. It's, anyway, that's all I'll say. The essential oils were one of those, okay, that's a thing that's happening. Okay. Underpub says that's astounding. For $5,900, you'd get the highest level editing, incredible cover design, and so on. It's way above what my self-pub friends pay on their entire process, and at least one of them does it for a living. Cheryl says, I spent about $1,500, which also included setting up a website, a DBA, and a business license. Wow. Do I know what a DBA is? I don't think I do. Editing costs, The Kids Are Asleep says, editing costs vary by type of edit, copy edit versus dev edit versus proofing. Yes. If you're paying for publication, I have to seriously question distribution. What Publish America ever distributed by Ingram or its equivalent? Oh, definitely not. And I believe that the placement they're bragging about is on Amazon, which is super easy to do by yourself. Maybe $1,000 for developmental edit, copy edit, proofread, and email tour. Email tour. That's cool, Cheryl. Doing business as, thank you. That's the DBA. $1,000 for an edit seems low, depending on book length. Yeah, I don't know. It probably also depends on who you're picking to do your edit, because if you're getting somebody like has a history in publishing, like Jennifer Udden, my former agent, she's probably going to charge more than just a freelancer who studied editing. Like, I tried to do that a very long time ago. Very long, like 98 or something. Yeah, Underpope, I am too. I feel, that's why I'm angry. I feel sad and angry for these people because they're getting scammed, and I worry that they're doing the Ink Master thing again of, well, I've already done the sunk cost fallacy, put my money in, I gotta stand up for my book and my publisher, and I reported them to Writer Beware, because Writer Beware just talked about this with another company doing a scam of actually offering classes to students and then funneling them from the class into the hybrid publishing model. So they get paid for the class, and then they get paid to publish or to help the person self-publish their book. But they won't say that. They say they're publishers. So I have not named and shamed, just in the small, there's a possibility. I want Victoria Strauss to look at it first. She runs Writer Beware, and just in case I could be completely and utterly wrong somehow, I'm probably not, but and if I am, I don't want to be sued for libel or slander. So but overall, don't do this. Just don't. It's just, you need to look at where the money's going and how often it's going there. With the service, it's a one-time thing. When it's with the publisher, it should be constant. So it's almost like they're asking for their own advance, that you give me the advance and then I'll take it out. I don't even know how the math would work. I'm not sure there. I'm just too angry. Really, if you don't fully understand, and anybody within the sound of my voice right now or later listening to this on the podcast, if you ever have a question about spending your money for your book, ask me. I am not a lawyer, but I can tell you whether you're legitimately making something quality that will help your book, such as cover design, editing, or whatever, or if you are becoming the customer of a publishing company, not an author within. Going back to chat, Cheryl Hayes says, I had a friend who got me a deal on the edit and it was not overly long. Right now, most geared to self-pub runs 5 to 10 cents a word for developmental. Okay, interesting. It seems like a service that could be useful for folks who do want a one-step shop to put their books out. Wait, are you talking about the scammers a one-stop shop? Or I'm confused. The kids are asleep. Let's see. For the amount she paid, I could have added an audiobook and Amazon Facebook ads and had a little money left over. Wow, Shale. Okay, so copy edit alone is 2 cents a word in Kids Are Asleep's experience. And you charge hourly and it shakes out to more. So yeah, it's people will need, they'll charge different things, but it's just, there are people who make money when you make money. They should never ever ask you for money unless, and this is in contracts, there's lots and lots of postage and copying fees, which is just weird. Because, I don't know what they need to do with postage and copying that's so much money that they want me to cover it, not them. Especially in the digital age. I'm betting that's a holdover from before the internet. But, that's the only thing in my contract that says I would give the publisher money for. Okay. Thank you, Kids Are Asleep. I was speaking to Underpope's point about it being sad because a service like that would be good. Indie pub folks have to do a lot of work, and paying someone to do some isn't unreasonable in theory. In practice, there's so many scammers. Yeah. I think, having a one-stop shop would be great. But you don't call yourself a publishing company. You don't charge almost $6,000, and you don't give them crappy stuff. That's just what... Yeah. So many people, so many scammers out there, so many people fall for this. And it shouldn't be happening because there's enough people out there like Writer Beware and this podcast saying, God, don't do this. So it's just maddening. So I reported it to Writer Beware, hoping that'll help. I am putting some more clearer rules about interviews on my website. I'm going to be focusing more on debuts because the people who debut in the 20 or 21, they'll never have a first book again. None of us will ever have a first book again, but that's particularly awful that you dream about this one thing happening, and then your one thing happens during a pandemic, and you get to be happy from home. Yay! So I would like to focus mostly on debuts and also lift up some voices that are usually ignored in publishing, like Black, Indigenous, people of color, or LGBTQIA plus folks. And this is not saying that I'm going to purposefully exclude anybody else, but I'm going to be looking for people who, if you want to look at what books are being promoted and what books are being featured and promoted and in the reviews, it's still white dudes mostly. So, and if it's not white dudes, it's probably white women. So I'm wanting to help even that out a little bit. The rest could probably be forgiven if they didn't give crap. I don't know if I'd say forgiven, but I do. It is the fact that it is awful is what really, really gets me. You can't even look at your end result and think this is good when there's like missing verbs in the bio. There's misuse of words. It's awful, and I'm just like, you paid how much for this? Cheryl says, the Alliance of Independent Authors is a group that lists resources for indie authors. They are good at vetting who are legit and who are spamming. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Cheryl. See, I knew you guys would give me good stuff. Really appreciate you. Cheryl, if you want to, either you or Underpope want to promote your stuff, whisper to Numbers Ninja a link to your stuff so we can give you some appreciation. The group requires membership, but you do not have to be published, just interested. They list all sorts of resources for book publication. It sounds like it was written by a bot. Maybe. It's the Christmas letter aspect of her bio that was really bad. It's like, I don't think people are going to care that you make your own soap and cheese. But I don't know, maybe bots are getting better at hiding themselves and worse at basic spelling and grammar. I don't know. But anyway, seriously, if you ever have a question and want to know if someone's a scam, you can ask me. You can go to Writer Beware. I believe it lives on the SFWA website. Easy to find. It was started by A.C. Crispin and Victoria Strauss, and A.C. Crispin died 8 years ago, and Strauss is still handling it. It's an excellent, excellent place to learn about a lot of things that the scammers don't want you to know about. Thank you, Kids Are Asleep. So yeah, that made me angry. Because I want you guys to be informed and protected and do the thing you need to do to get your books out there, but I want you to do it in the way that's best for you, not best for a scam company. But let's talk about those ideas. On Tuesday, somebody wanted to know what happens if you got 80 ideas for a book. How do you choose? And it's an excellent question. Because, one thing we have a problem with is too many ideas. If you don't have many ideas, then lock away all your devices and make yourself get bored. That's one thing that will drive it. But how you decide which ones are the best ones? Well, obviously, my usual advice is write them all down so you don't forget them, and then do the one that speaks to you. But that's not detailed enough. And that's not really fair. Thank you, Cheryl. For people listening at home, it's CherylRHayes.com. And accrispin.blogspot.com is where you'll find Writer Beware. And the AllianceIndependentAuthors.org is that URL. So if you're listening later and you want those links, that's what they are. This is something that I ran into. I believe one thing that made my recent novella so much of a nightmare is because I've had this idea in my head for literally years, but the idea is actually much more vague than I usually get. Like, usually I think up a conflict or a character or somebody whose story I want to tell. But this one was, I had watched a lot of kids shows with Numbers Ninja many, many years ago, and it always struck me how strange it was to be looking at these grown men and women giving it their all to act for children. And the feeling that a lot of stay-at-home parents have of, well, the strange ennui of, I'm drinking grape juice out of a plastic cup and I'm watching Steve on Blue's Clues sing another song. My life is really surreal. And I guess a lot of people hit that point this year and last year with the lockdown. And then I don't even know what triggered the idea, but the idea was, what if a group of people resistant to the current state of the government wanted to send secret codes, and they didn't trust the internet, so they were sending secret codes via a children's television show, which is going to be watched mainly by toddlers and stay-at-home parents who are half paying attention because they really don't need to worry about where Madagascar is and its exports and the song about them. I struggled with that because I knew I wanted the host in the story, and I wanted him to not know what was going on, but he's the one who's sending these codes. He's the face of the show. But that is all I knew. I didn't know if someone figured it out while they were watching television with a toddler. I don't know if it was a student like a student resistance group who figured it out. And I tried this story in a couple of different ways. So my advice to you is you want to write down your 80 ideas. And I know it's probably not 80, but it's probably a lot. Write down each of them. And then start doing one of our, like the Snowflake Method or the Save to Cat Method, but on a very, very, very smaller scale. Just see if you can come up with a paragraph about that book that would be you would feel comfortable putting in a synopsis in a cover letter. Like Luke Skywalker lives at home with his uncle and aunt, and his world is thrown into chaos by the arrival of 2 droids sent from the rebels in having a major battle above them, and his uncle and aunt are killed, and he has to figure out, he has to join the old hermit and go across the galaxy to save everybody. Also, there's a guy in a big mask who huffs and puffs and wheezes, and he's very evil and somewhat magical, as is the old guy. Yeah, I don't dictate. I don't dictate my writing at all. But the person in this situation has Y problem and must do Z to get out of it. And if you can't think of those things on some of your stories and you can think of them on others, it's already becoming clear which ones you need to be paying attention to. The others can just hang out in the back of your mind. I did think that the Snowflake Method might be good for fleshing out vague ideas. Exactly, K. Kimmy. That's kind of what I had in mind. If you can come up with 3 levels of the Snowflake Method, I forget how it's all done. Whichever one gives you that paragraph, the first paragraph. If you haven't watched, I did a live Snowflake Method brainstorming on a book last October. And I rage quit after about step 5. And I think the power in Snowflake Method is the repetition. Sorry, my brain stopped for a moment. So the repetition of your plot is you write it out in a sentence, and then you write it out in a couple of sentences, and then you write it out in a paragraph, and then you just keep expanding it, but you got to keep saying the same plot over and over again and just adding to it, which, helps solidify the story in your brain and probably helps you identify when things could possibly go wrong in your storytelling. But that many times, I got sick of it. I've never done the Snowflake Method to the final step, but I do believe it has merit, just maybe not for me. So yeah, put a limit on it. Actually, no, I'm not going to say put a limit on it. I'm saying take each idea and go through the Snowflake Method until you stop. And then the one you get the furthest on, the one you know the most about, or the one that excites you enough to keep wondering about it, that's the one you want to do. I'm not saying you have to go all the way to the end result, which is thousands and thousands of words of an outline, but that will help you. If you start doing like characters, subplots, and romances, and secret grudges, and secret siblings, and all that stuff, then you subconsciously know which book you want to write. Tree Lobster says, for my work in progress, I started with a list of 20 plus ideas, then went through them one at a time, cast a character synopsis, write the first 2,000-ish words, go to idea 9. Got to idea 9 and couldn't stop writing at 2,000 words. I figured that was the sign I was waiting for. Excellent, Tree Lobsters. Thank you. Don't reach 100,000 words before deciding you didn't want to write that novel. And yeah, Fire Writer, I'm with you. If you've written 100,000 words, you probably have already written most of it. Oh my, I wish I hadn't written that. Oh boy. And yeah, this is turning out to be a lot longer than usual because I talked about 2 things, but I'm going to close it off here for the podcast. And you can reach me at mightymur@gmail.com, and you can see the blog and show notes at murverse.com. I am available on Twitter, mightymur, Instagram. I don't post a lot, but I do sometimes post. That's mightymur2, numeral. And yeah, you can support me on Patreon, Ko-fi, or Coffee. I don't know anybody who says that the same way. Because it's called Buy Me a Coffee, I'm assuming it's pronounced coffee. But I've heard Ko-fi, Ko-fi. Anyway, I have one. You can support me there. You can support me via Patreon. You can support me via Gemmy. Or you can support me over at twitch.tv/mightymur. Or you can just tell a friend. If you're liking this and you can't support via money, then support via word of mouth. That would be awesome too. And I think that's everything I need to talk about. I'll be back on Tuesday, 2 p.m. You can catch me live, or you can catch me a couple of days later when I put this in the feed. So thank you all for your support, and you should be writing.
I do this to myself?
This podcast is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you would also like to join the ink-stained fabulists, go to patreon.com/mightymur.
Name up on that shelf, on the spine of a paperback, a paperback.